After more than 40 years serving on the state of Georgia and local and federal levels, Republican Senator Johnny Isakson will resign at the end of the year. Senator Isakson is 74. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2013. He's been in and out of the hospital the last couple of years. On Monday, he had a growth removed from his kidney. He cited his mounting health issues as the reason he is stepping down. With Republican Senator David Perdue also up for re-election next year, this means 2 Senate seats are potentially up for grabs here in our state. We have team coverage for you this evening, starting with Doug Richards live in Cobb County, where he just talked to Governor Kemp about who could replace Isakson until a special election is held. Doug?
That's right, Cheryl. Johnny Isakson's office is here in Cobb County. Coincidentally, I'd heard that Isakson had been going through rehab and actually doing some visits to his office in recent weeks, and this recent operation was obviously a significant health setback, necessitating a call to Governor Kemp this morning announcing that he would not finish his term. Kemp will appoint his successor, as you said, at least in the interim, and here is what the governor had to say about that.
He said, "Governor, I'm not at 100%. He said, Georgians deserve 100%, and it's time for me to leave it with you." So I certainly appreciate really him putting his state and his country ahead of himself and his health, and we certainly wish him the best. He's been a great public servant for our state.
What qualities will you be looking for in a successor?
Well, you know, dealing with the hurricane coming today, I hadn't had too much time to think on that, but I think, you know, somebody that's going to represent our values in the state, that's going to fight for us, fight for Georgians in the U.S. Senate.
And that was all that Governor Kemp would say about that. We have some names of folks who might be on his list. Attorney General Chris Carr is one of them. Likewise, Doug Collins, the congressman from Northeast Georgia, has been prominent on the House Judiciary Committee. One possible dark horse is Jan Jones, a Fulton County Republican who is the most powerful woman in the Georgia legislature. There are many other folks that Governor Kemp could consider in an interim appointment. The interim appointment, of course, would only be temporary and would lead to a special election next year where you would have that individual running alongside Senator David Perdue in a tandem U.S. Senate election, which is something that rarely, if ever, happens in any state across America, making Georgia even more interesting next year. Back to you.
Yeah, I would guess the heavy betting would be on the 3 candidates that you showed their pictures, Doug. Indeed.